The voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM. The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
It is well known that diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, and other illnesses may restrict blood flow, which can lead to impotence and erectile dysfunction. This is why Enhance was formulated to meet these challenging health problems, which can reduce your ability to perform. If you're having problems maintaining your manhood, then reclaim your manhood today with Enhance. Enhance increases your energy level, boosts your stamina, and increases your endurance.
You can get your Enhance at Southwell VA4, Restorer Pharmacy Soufre, Knights Med Miku, Lay by Bar The Morn, Dexter's Place Jeremy Street Castries, Citygate Bar The City opposite the market, Plants Place Denry Highway, Arlette Supermarket Soufre, The Release Stress Bar Labrie Highway, Cool Joint Bar Victoria Schwazel, Prios Bus Stop 22, next to the Moshi Bus Stop opposite the Grosley Bus Stop. Prios Bar and Grill in Corinth, Grosley.
Enhance, the best a man can get.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Another wonderful Tuesday afternoon to you, everyone. It is the 14th day of the month of April 2026. This is The Real Issues with me, Shelton Daniel, your host and the producer. Today, Jaquan is off, so we want to say welcome and thanks for being here to Nigel Nicholas, the manager of Real FM, the radio station on which we serve you via the frequencies of 91.3 megahertz for the north and 91.5 for the south, simulcasting on NBC television, channel 120 on the Flow Cable TV service. We are available on Facebook Live and on YouTube live streaming as well. You know, just an observation, there is something I've noticed about people who come into big positions, and I think they themselves are aware that they bring to the positions or they come to the positions with certain deficiencies. But nonetheless, they campaign, they advocate, they lobby very strongly for the positions, knowing that they're not qualified, knowing that they don't have the smarts, knowing that they're not sharp, they ain't very bright. But they come to the positions and they try to make up for the deficiencies that they know only too well, you know, are really hindering and hobbling them. But they bluff and BS their way through it. Some of them commit outright fraud and subterfuge and underhandedness to get the position, because they don't really want to bring to the position any excellence or any brilliance. They don't really care for that. Either the position will facilitate them to make money, to get money, to facilitate them to get things that they are fascinated with, whether it is opportunities for travel, and I suppose the allowances that come with such travel at the expense of the organization. And they try to substitute their shortage of true intelligence, of smarts, as I say, by engaging in a lot of showboating and projecting a lot of flamboyance. They have this kind of flair and flamboyance about them that they tend to project. And one way that they seek to convince people that they're brighter than they are and probably will ever be is to come and want to do a shake-up. They always want to do a shake-up. They come in to shake up things. They come in to, turn things over and turn things on their head and so on. So they come in and they always want to fire this person and fire that person and deviate from the rules if there is a constitution to break the constitution and the laws and so on, because it gives them that sense, that image of being innovators, of being creative people, of being, something is always not going well and hasn't been done well and they're going to fix it. And they want to fix it in a very ad hoc manner, in a manner that doesn't pay attention to any rules or any processes or procedures. They often overstep their legitimate authority. It's called being ultra-virus or behaving ultra-virus, beyond one's lawful authority. And again, it's intended to give them the impression that they are people who can spot problems and they come to fix the problems, and they don't care about the procedures which say you need a 2/3 majority, or you need how many votes, or you need whatever conditions for them to take the actions that they're taking. I've seen people like that, and like I said, they try to cover up their wrong, incorrect, illegal way of doing things by always trying to do it with a lot of flair, a lot of flamboyance, a lot of showboating. You'll think I always like to mention his name, but Donald Trump is one such person, He's going to come and he's going to drain the swamp. He'll make America great again. And the guy is being legally challenged at every step of the way. Tariffs, I'm going to put 50% tariffs on them, a presidential pronouncement. I wonder how often did the technocrats in the US government who have to do with such things as adjusting tariffs and so on, and even the Congress were able to keep pace, were able to stay updated about those tariffs that Donald Trump was putting now, adjusting tomorrow, revoking the other day, reimposing higher ones and so on. I wonder, it must have been a breathtaking, leaving them breathless situation where they had to do that thing every time and he would never stop. Likewise, if the wars, which require congressional approval, wars without any declaration, without any congressional approval, but it's all a matter of he's going to fix up everything. He's going to shake up everything because nothing is right. Nothing was happening good before him. It's only when he came, he fixed up everything. And they hide their deficiencies by making it look like everybody else has a problem. And they're the ones who fix the problem. And so anything that had to do with Obama, Trump has to come and basically, just sweep everything off the desk. The Iran nuclear deal and so on, which again was never a deal between the United States and Iran. It was a deal between Iran, the United States, Britain, France, Russia, China, a whole lot of other countries who understood the threat that a nuclear-armed Iran posed, not just to Israel, but to any amount of places. Iran has formed alliances which were alliances of convenience with whether it is Soviet Russia. The very theocratic nature of the regime, it's a religious ruled that even if they have an elected government, they have a supremo above the elected government who interprets the Quran and Sharia law for them and how it should apply, how it can be, filtered through the procedural aspects of government and that sort of thing, Iran could never be a friend of the communists, Soviet Union, the Bolsheviks and so on. Not that Iran, another Iran, but not that one. They could never be friends with allies of countries that have codified same-sex marriage and tell you that men can marry men and so on. They cannot. But for the purpose of convenience and self-preservation, they will tolerate them and they will have diplomatic relations with them and so on, because in the world you cannot afford to be self-righteously puritanical and you don't want to talk to this person because they're doing that. Iran now, they could never, and that is where the problem between Iran and Israel came, the theocratic Iran. You know, after the Islamic Revolution of 1979, they were the ones who declared that this Zionist state, you know, they are committed to seeing the back and the end of it. And that is where it became. But let's get back. I'm not going to talk about Iran in just a moment. It is about those people who believe they can come and they can change the world. It's their duty to move everything the way it is and then to change it all over. Usually it is a reflection of their own sense of deficiency and inferiority. And I'm giving Donald Trump as an example. And I'm wondering the same thing about Kamala Persad-Bissessar, who suddenly, she's been prime minister before, she knew about CARICOM, she knew how CARICOM was working. You know, what is it about CARICOM that is so different and so terrible that when it most needs to come together, this is when the lady comes and she finds everything wrong with CARICOM, and CARICOM has every fault that you can think of, and Kamala Persad-Bissessar is threatening to withdraw Trinidad and Tobago's funding for CARICOM, and CARICOM this, and the leaders that, and Nicolas Maduro. That's the first time that she was prime minister, which I think was from 2010, you know, to 2015. To me, around that time, Hugo Chavez, if he was not dead, was already on his deathbed. So she would have seen Maduro, you know, in action already. She would have seen several people, all of a sudden, the friendship that they had with this narco-terrorist. And I'm wondering, what is the basis for Trinidad and Tobago having such an adversarial position, such a stance of enmity against Venezuela? Guyana doesn't have it. Guyana is trying to protect themselves for sure, and they will do what it takes, like any other country, Ukraine included, will do when somebody is threatening to annex your country and to take over and to use force to take over. They do what it takes. But Guyana, you don't get the sense that there is any kind of hatred against Venezuela and they want to do that. It's Trinidad under Kamala Persad-Bissessar that I find has adopted, you know, this stance against Venezuela, and you can see that the lady is trying to impress Donald Trump. And impress him for what? He turns on people on the spur of the moment, on less than a dime. He turns on them. He's turned on Europe. He's turned on Britain. He's turned on this. He's turned on that. He's turned on Ukraine. And why? Because Joe Biden, his predecessor, and Obama, they were condemning Russia and they were taking a certain position. And so he has to do things differently. He has to show that he's not like them. He has to show that he's this new kid on the block, this innovative person, and this person who's the, how do you call that, the bohemian, the iconoclast, the person whose head is just different and he thinks ahead of everybody else. And so there is a deal and he pulls out of the deal, the Iran nuclear deal. You pull out of a deal that's there, you know. Nobody said it. I mean, come on, man. Even if you thought Obama and those people messed up, his jealousy against Obama is known. But don't tell me Obama got it wrong, aka America. Britain got it wrong. France got it wrong. Russia got it wrong. China got it wrong. You know, so many major countries, many of them nuclear armed nations themselves, that they all got it wrong. They all got it wrong with the Iran deal. You tore it up, you spat on it, you pushed it out of the way, and now you want to be pressuring them all the time to make a deal. Make a deal. Make a deal on this nuclear. Make a deal that for the next 20 years you are not going to enrich. Well, all of that was in the deal. How much enrichment they could do, for how long, the sunset clause on the deal, the monitoring mechanisms and protocols where, people were supposed to come in from IAE and be granted access to the facilities to say whether they were in compliance. I mean, under that deal, they returned so many things that belonged to Iran that had been confiscated or sanctioned, whatever, such as their gold. They got their gold back from America, blah, 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 blah. I think Britain is holding a lot of Venezuela's gold, Still, this is the way they come back and plunder developing countries. They took Venezuela's gold because at the time they were recognizing Juan Guaido as being the president, and so to pressure Maduro. You think that gold they'll ever give it back easily? You think they'll ever give it back? It's a form of plunder that's going on. And here am I looking at the situation, whether Kamala Persad-Bissessar cannot learn from somebody else, another woman. A woman was actually granted a Nobel Peace Prize by the Europeans, something that Trump coveted badly for all what the contempt is showing. And this woman thought she could play into Trump's affections, through the flattery of telling him he deserved the Nobel Prize so much, she's going to give him hers. Has that woman been treated with any more respect? When Kamala looks across whatever they call it, the Gulf of Paria or whatever that separates Trinidad and Venezuela, I can't even remember what it is. When they look across there and she sees, who is the woman that Kamala had nothing good to say about her? She criticized Rowley and them for even talking to Delcy Rodriguez. And look at what has happened. Overthrow Maduro, abduct him and his wife, take them out of Venezuela. And who is the president who every day that passes seems to be settling ever more nicely, ever more comfortably, ever more peaceably, effectively in working with the Americans, in collaborating with them than Delcy Rodriguez? So you come here, you want to shake up CARICOM, you want to cuss off everybody, and look at Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's deputy, vice president. Delcy Rodriguez is now the de facto effective president of Venezuela. And she seems to know how to deal, diplomatically, affably, personally with everybody she has to deal with, the American oil executives, the diplomats, the government officials, and now even CARICOM. She's been to Venezuela. She's been to Grenada. She seems to have had a very amicable meeting with Dickon Mitchell and so on. Who knows where else she might be in St. Lucia? I suspect she may not be in too much of a hurry to go to Trinidad and Tobago, especially if it involves an encounter, with Kamala Prasad. You think Trump is going to pressure her for that? You think you think they're going to sour relations? What do you have that Trump needs so much, except the occasional landing and the footprint of a base or some kind of launch pad or jump-off point to invade somewhere that is more convenient to him? To this day, the former president of Ghana, a military man, brigadier, the highest role or rank I think you can get, who was once the president of Guyana. I know it's David something, I can't even remember his name right now. The man says that the reason why America soured against him was because they asked him to use Guyana as a base, as a launch pad, as a jump-off point to invade Venezuela. And despite all the territorial problems and threats they had, he refused. Granger, David Granger, he said that openly, that America soured towards him because they wanted him to give permission, approval, whatever, to use Guyana to attack Venezuela. And he said no, he's not going to do that. So what does Kamala think she has to offer America that is so great? Especially since the Venezuela issue has been settled where the Americans are concerned. They've gotten Maduro out of the way. They've endorsed, Delcy Rodriguez to be the acting president, if not the new president of Venezuela. They seem to have cooperation. You're going to be marginalized. Trinidad don't have the kind of oil that it once used to have. Trump actually came out openly and said of Maria, Corina Machado, the woman who is believed to have won the elections and whatever, and who thought maybe the Americans would turn to her, to appoint her and make her. Trump actually said she doesn't command the respect and she doesn't have basically the intelligence. I mean, what can be more insulting than that? What kind of chop, can be worse than that? You kissing Trump's backside, even to the point of giving your Nobel Prize to him, and Trump saying he don't think you'll make it. He don't think you make the cut. He don't think you'll be able to run Venezuela. You're not respected enough, and you don't seem to have the smarts that they'll see. The very same socialist regime that America hated, they're choosing somebody who was next, to the apex of that socialist regime to run the place. What does Kamala Prasad Bissessa believe is going to become of her? She'll become so marginalized. Trinidad and Tobago does not have oil anymore. They may be getting a little drip and drab and a little sputter and, here and there. But by and large, the oil industry is exhausted. The only hope that they have is to go into more natural gas exploration and production. And it was being pursued in collaboration with Venezuela. You cuss off Venezuela. Who knows? Delcy might not make noise about it. But she might quietly just, nudge you with her elbow. Sotila, move there. Move there. I don't have time for you. And try to develop with other people, with other, countries and so on. You cussing off CARICOM, and yet Trinidad enjoys the highest amount of trade and trade surplus and whatever with the rest of CARICOM. If they decide now to see what they can, import from other places outside of CARICOM and the common external tariff and whatever it is and so on goes, and they decide to spike Trinidad wherever they can, maybe the same Venezuela, with American help now, its productivity, industrial and commercial goods and so on might spike to a height, and Guyana making money off oil. You just might find Trinidad and Tobago marginalized to an extent that you never saw coming. Well, what is this kind of behavior? You're not learning. These people, especially the big powers, they have no friends. They only have interest. Well, what's Trinidad and Tobago that you think it's so hot and it's so heavy that you're cussing off your CARICOM colleagues left, right, and center every single day? Now, let me come back to the international. Where we are, Nigel, with the time?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
10 minutes. I had to point that out to me. Okay, this is a little bright, the light today. Yesterday, Jaquan asked me, and I told him it was okay, but now I find it's a little on the bright side. I believe the United States is closer now than ever to defeating Iran. I'll tell you why. I don't have any horse in the race. I don't have any skin in the game. I don't have anyone I'm betting on, US, Iran, and this sort of thing. But I hate to see blatant injustice and passe-droit taking place. I just hate to see it. The bullying thing, well, not bullying, sorry. That's a different thing, right? The bullying thing and the kicking people's butt simply because you can, I don't like that. And that's all I'm hearing these days. We have the powerful military, but nobody can stand up to us. It's like there is no more morality to strength anymore. It's all a matter of, I can kick your butt, so I'll kick it for no other reason but that I bloody well can. And I'm not for that. It's like all those Iranians, children and all that are being killed, it don't matter. They don't matter. They're not people. And I saw the same thing being done to the Palestinians. On account of Hamas, Palestinians are not people. They have been demonized and dehumanized. You can kill any amount of them and it don't matter. One Israeli dies. That's all that gets talked about for weeks on end. 6 Americans die. There's all the drama and all the theater and all that goes with, the crying and the weeping for the 6 Americans and so on. I don't like that. You bombing the people, their oil facilities, everything. They bomb other people's oil facilities who are hosting you, who call themselves your allies and so on. That's all that gets talked about. The only concern about some people is the Strait of Hormuz that's closed and it is choking off the world's oil supply and it's causing oil prices to spike. Now, how many thousands of Iranians who have been killed, they're in their country. They're basically not troubling anybody. I mean, you don't need to take me to task for that. But it's like you can just go and bomb civilian, military, hospitals, even a Jewish synagogue in Tehran was completely destroyed in an Israeli air or missile strike or whatever it is. You hardly hear that spoken about, and it was mentioned, but I think the Israelis said it's just collateral damage. They were aiming for somebody and the synagogue was closed, a Jewish synagogue. But here's why I believe the United States will defeat Iran. To me, those Iranians, they're too gullible. Maybe they don't have a choice. But they're allowing themselves to be what you've heard me refer to as being punked too often and too easily by the Americans. So that by now they should know anytime Trump asks for talks and wants a truce, it is so that he can reconfigure, rearrange, reposition his forces for some other objective. And the moment I heard about Trump saying how if they do not respond by tonight, the civilization will die, he's going to wipe out Iran. And the next thing, Trump postponed the deadline and they agree for talks mediated by, brokered by Pakistan in Islamabad. I said, but haven't we heard that before? Every time Trump calls for a ceasefire and he says, let's have talks, he uses the time of the ceasefire to step up the attack on Iran. And so there are talks pending between America and Iran. Israel goes and it starts to bomb Iran even more than it had done before. And America joins. America joins. And they go and they drop those bombs into, those nuclear sites, whatever. And the fellow said they've wiped out the nuclear program. They wipe it out. There's no way the Iranians can revive that thing. So I'm wondering why you have to attack them again and again. And every time it is the nuclear program you're seeking to destroy. You said you destroyed it with your B-21 bomb, raiders, whatever, stealth bombers that could drop bombs weighing 30,000, and you can only carry 2 of them at a time, and they drop them through the ventilation troughs, and they went through the mountain, the solid granite or whatever rock it is, and they destroyed it. And they did that, say, on a Saturday, on a Friday. Talks were supposed to be held on a Sunday or Monday. And so the Iranians probably relaxed their posture, stepped down, maybe slightly demobilized, and then you go and you bomb them. It happened a second time again. It's like every time Israel's anti-missile rockets run out, because the Iranians seem to have so many of those ballistic missiles, that when they rain them down on Israel, Israel shoots down a lot of them. But some, it seems many, and one day we'll hear the Israelis admit the extent of the damage and death that they took. And they don't want to appear too weak. They don't want to appear that they got their butts slapped around, they got a serious cut-ass in that thing. So they tell you about people who were injured from the debris of an interceptor. I think after the war is over, they'll really admit that they got shellacked and plastered, They got a lot more blows than they admit. So once those anti-missile things, which I understand are very expensive and they're sophisticated, and so you don't turn out a huge amount of them beyond a certain thing. It's not infinite. Once they need to restock their Iron Dome or their how they call it, David Sling and Arrow missiles and all the things and so on, and they run out of it. And they're afraid that if the Iranians continue to hit, because the Iranians, they're expecting Tel Aviv, or the Iranians are hitting South, they're hitting Beersheba, they're hitting this, they're hitting Dimona, where the Israelis are supposed to have a nuclear plant, they're hitting, those fellows are hitting Israel, all places. Now that is shaking, that is rattling Israelis, who are accustomed across the 70-something, almost 80 years of their existence as a nation. They've never had that kind of, they've never had that kind of thing. Just like America boasts that their homeland has never been attacked, whatever, and so on. So I think it's shaking up Israelis. How secure are we really? And so they asked for a truce so that they can restock their missiles. Another time I heard Trump bringing in 82nd Airborne and 25,000 or 50,000 American troops were being moved from Europe to the Middle East. I said the latest thing, Trump wants to reposition his forces, which land forces, if it's a land invasion, so they will have them at the best jump off points. If it is to go to Kag Island or whatever, Israel will restock, but Israel seems like it's Lebanon. They're using the opportunity to lash Lebanon mercilessly so that by the time Trump decides to resume hostilities, Lebanon will be no more. But I said to myself, why do the Iranians, again, maybe they had no choice, they agree even for a third time to this ceasefire thing. Now I'm hearing Trump is blockading the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran had a blockade, it wasn't good, but your blockade is okay. You can block it now. Ships can't move, or is the mines they're going to clear? And this. I thought a ceasefire covered all aspects of a conflict. That you were going to keep your forces in place where they were at the time of the ceasefire before, but you're using it to redeploy and reposition and to go and to block Straits of Hormuz and do this and do that and the other. And I see the Iranians, I say, but what is it? They have a little soft spot for America, that once America says ceasefire, they drop their guard. Now Trump is putting forces. I believe when this thing will evaporate and America will go again, this time they will go for total destruction. Anyway, we're approaching the time for us to have our first commercial break. Until the 1979 revolution, the Islamic revolution that toppled the last Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and it brought in the Islamist rule, the Islamic theocracy under the first supreme leader, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the guy they killed as there was only the second in almost 50 years. The fellow have only had 2 supreme leaders. So there's been a longevity about them. The Jewish diaspora in Iran was, and maybe probably still is, but I know up until that point, that was the largest Jewish diaspora in what we know as the Middle East. Outside of Israel itself, the place where you found the largest number and concentration of Jews was in Persia, which sometime in the 1930s decided to revert to the name Iran, or to take up the name Iran, because Iran is more Islamic, it's more Muslim and so on. Persia is an ancient name for a time that I suppose the Islamists who are monotheists do not want to be associated with the ancient pagan Persia, which was a polytheistic country, many gods, temples of gods that, Islam does not recognize and does not. That's one of the reasons why Islam and India, they don't really pull. The Indian Hindu thing has a pantheon of 33 million gods. That alone drives the Muslims crazy, because they believe in one God, they condemn idolatry, they condemn polytheism and this kind of thing. So, right away, their minds are on the same level. So, Islam would not permit them to continue to have the same thing from the time of Cyrus. But there's a reason why there happen to be so many Jews. And it's an ancient thing. It's a long-standing thing. Maybe because the Islamic, the Khomeinis and so on, who didn't like. But there's a difference between Jews and Zionists. And I believe that the high number of Jews in Iran, because the Iranian constitution makes for accepting and embracing people of different faiths and cultures and backgrounds. Christians, they live fairly peaceably there. I don't hear about them killing them because they're Christians and Jews and all these different kinds of people. But Israel actually bombing Iran and destroying the Jewish synagogue, which has one of the oldest that has been there. It makes you ask yourself questions about what really is happening. But we're due for the break. Let's take it. When we come back, we'll chat some more. And then we'll go on to the point where we'll open the line for your calls.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Life moves fast. To keep up, you need more than just energy. You need vitality. Introducing McDowell's Damiana, a celebrated botanical secret crafted for all genders, now captured in a single daily capsule. For women, it's great for hormone balance and reproductive health. For men, it's the traditional secret to peak vitality and stamina. With 300 milligrams of pure Damiana extract, it's designed for both men and women to support balance, mood, and natural spark. Reclaim your flow with McDowell's Damiana. Unlock the best version of you. Available at Health Service Center on the John Compton Highway and all pharmacies. You can also order online on McDowellsProducts.com.
Hello, all realists. Thank you for listening to Real FM. If you'd like to call our studio, here is the number. Call the direct line on 4533911, or you can WhatsApp call on 4879849. Call to participate, win prizes, request music, and interact with our announcers and DJs. Real FM, the People's Station.
Rediscover your rhythm. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Morning walks, time with loved ones, and moving freely without constant discomfort. But when joint and muscle pains slow you down, even the simple moments can feel like a challenge. That's where McDowell's Pain Complex comes in. Formulated to support joint comfort and mobility, McDowell's Pain Complex helps you get back to the life you love, step by step, day by day. Move easier, feel better, live fully. McDowellsProducts.com. McDowell's Pain Complex. Rediscover your rhythm. Now available at all leading pharmacies and at Health Service Center upstairs the Napa Building on the John Compton Highway.
Super Jazz and Arts, that's the best community jazz event in St. Lucia.
You heard it. Now come to Super Jazz and Arts, the ultimate experience. Gramps Morgan. Voice. Montiel. DYB. Afar Alain. Ezra the Fun Machine. Imran Nerdy. Reasons Orchestra. Boo Hinkson and the True Tones. Now on a Saturday, May 2nd. Doors open from 3 p.m. Get your tickets at $150 or indulge in the ultimate VIP Village experience for $400. Purchase at 4circletickets.com, the Cell Outlets Island-wide, and the Soufre Foundation office. 9 incredible artists, 1 unforgettable night. And also join us for DJ Souf Creole Breakfast Fest, Sunday, May 3rd. Admission free. The ultimate weekend in the ultimate location. Soufre Jazz, the ultimate experience.
Stop letting your night be defined by trips to the bathroom. Waking up 3 or 4 times a night isn't just getting older, it's a wake-up call. Reclaim your flow and your freedom with McDowell Prostate Health. Specially formulated for men over 40, our premium herbal formula targets weak flow and frequent interruptions before they sideline your life. Don't just manage the symptoms, stay ahead of them. Get back the confidence of a full night's sleep and the strength of a healthy flow. Feel like yourself again. Pick up McDowell's Prostate Health at Health Services Center, pharmacies, or order online at McDowellProducts.com.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM. The man.
Appreciate you staying with the real issues on this Tuesday. It is the 14th of April 2026 with me, Shelton Daniel, and Nigel Nicholas. Thank you very much, Terry Fenelon, who sent me a message yesterday that I meant to read. It was about, he was responding to a lady who called speaking about the serious problem we have of wanton, indiscriminate dumping of garbage and the overall littering problem in the country. And he said, this lady is very correct. VG Beach, which is where Terry, among others, go every morning for his morning swim, which is, you know, like a ritual, a religion, a real strict regimen for him. He says, this lady is very correct. VG Beach was in a total nasty state this morning. And speaking about Monday morning, I think you know, whatever activities people would have had on the weekend, and it is a problem. It's just a problem everywhere with the way people treat the environment, the places that they turn to for fun, for recreation, for relaxation, for refreshment and so on, that they could be treating those places like that, just tossing bottles, and a lot of them glass bottles. We talk about the plastics, folks. When people are just throwing bottles, glass bottles all over the place like that, and they're getting smashed, and that same sand, you want to go and take a jog in it and so on, you don't know where the shard of glass is and so on. And it's not just the beach in terms of the ocean front, you know, rivers, river banks and so on. People talk about going for river limes and riverside jams and so on. Nothing more fun than that, you know, but how long can the fun last when you can go to those places and all you can see is the garbage, is the wanton, indiscriminate family littering that takes place? It takes all the fun out of it. I don't know for you, but once I go to any place, beach, riverside, wherever it is, and I see this kind of zordy underdumping, you don't have to do me anything, you know, just the look of it. I don't want to stay there anymore. There was a time now I see Caribbean Cinemas has blocked off a large part of their sizable parking lot. It's only towards the front and a little bit to the side of the building that you can park and so on. I mean, it was a lot of parking that they had, but you would go there first for a little chill and park there and so on, until I stopped going because I saw people seem to be buying food and whatever from the takeaway establishment, the fast food places that are there, whether pizza or chicken, whatever it is. And I mean, it's like they just used to just toss it out of there. And sometimes go in there, you don't need to see anything. Sometimes you go there and you just happen to look and you see, a nice bird, a dove or so on landing there, and then you see a mongoose trying to, to sneak its way through the grass, and I suppose to see if it can go and ambush the bird. There's this kind of things, a little fun and relaxation and so on. From time to time, a bird that you don't see often, it comes along, different times of the year when the butterflies, are out, and you look at those things and you say, but why would somebody just want to toss a takeaway box and a cup? And it's like almost like a feeding frenzy. Somebody do it, so others do more, and then others do even more, and you can still have the heart to go to that place. I don't want to go there, and is a whole kind of thing that making your skin crawl, with this littering and so on that that you're seeing and so on. I don't know how we can tolerate it. Anyway, yuck. That's all I can say. That's what I think most of us will say. Yuck. And someone made a point, they said, look, people will protest about plans to build a hotel on VG Beach. They're ready to come out to fight at the mention that a hotel will be there. But what about what we ourselves doing without any hotel being there? The way we dirtying up the place and messing it up, and if they happen to go and clear the bush is just one thing, is what's under the bush. Like people leave their homes, whatever, they have adequate facilities for garbage collection and disposal through solid waste on the truck. But they go and they take their bags and they throw them under those little, shrub areas and so on. And I'm saying, but what is it that you have to hide and so on, that you have to go and look for a place of concealment to throw your garbage? It looks like there's heads and arms and little babies and so on inside. I honestly don't know. But the person was right. You want to go to war over hotel plans they have to build there, but you yourself are absolutely savaging the place, with the Zodi that you just keep putting there, all the time. And I want to say something to people like Mr. Marcellus Steed, Mr. Bax, and so on. Let's imagine that you're within your rights and you're doing a good thing to go and stir up people against the Queen's chain that they're taking away from you, and whatever doing, and the beachfront access and all this. It's all good things, but I wish I would hear once in a while people like yourself and Marcella and others who are so concerned about developments that are taking away the rights of the people, that you would also engage with the people and tell them, look, this is absolutely uncalled for. It's unacceptable. It's not on for us to be doing that to our own country, to our own space, to our own environment, and so on. I'm not saying you're not doing it, but be more prominent. You see the same way about you go there with your bolt cutter to cut the fence on Ridley Beach and whatever, because it shouldn't be there, and the Queen's chain, how many meters from the watermark and so on. I hope that you can find some motivation, some zeal within you to, in a very sustained and consistent way, keep talking, because I talk about it a lot. Whatever else you can say about me, please say that Shelton on his program. My goodness, he used to rant and be beside himself about what we're doing with this garbage and this indiscriminate littering and dumping in the country. People, throughout history, and you can get it from both biblical, mostly extra biblical sources, there have been some great kingdoms and empires that in their time, and even by posterity, were regarded as world powers of the time. And let us say there were about 5 or 6 of these ancient world powers. It seems there's a history, if you were to believe what's in the Bible, that every one of them invaded the so-called Holy Land, Israel, the Jewish people. They occupied them, they annexed them, they subjugated the people, Jews and I suppose others who were there. They deported and exiled them, they enslaved them. This is the history of the narrative behind almost all of these ancient powers that operated in, around, or near the Middle East. Whether we talk about ancient Egypt, we know the story of the Exodus and the enslavement by the pharaohs and all of that and so on. It's a story of those people, the Israelites people as they were called, the ones now call themselves Israelis, while I tell you, they're not the same people of described in the Bible. So those who keep making themselves, their heads be taken up with this thing that these are the people of God, and so they can commit any genocide and murder babies and everything. And even they're also a same-sex marriage country, one of those countries and so on. But there's some people, especially in America, who insist on believing that these are the consecrated people of the Bible and the children of Israel and of Jacob and Isaac and Abraham. And so we have to support them and stand by them, and Trump is going to war, and people make their way to the White House to rest their hands on him to pray for our president, that he will stand by Israel. I'm ridiculing it. It's just ridiculous and beyond, if it were not so serious. But almost all of these ancient kingdoms, the narrative is that they often invaded, occupied, ransacked, razed to the ground, the Israelite people, and Jerusalem and the temple. It was always a story, whatever it was. Egypt enslaving them, they getting, a liberation by God. There was the Assyrians who virtually were responsible for wiping out the 10 tribe, northern part of Israel, and did try to take Judah, but it is said that they were repulsed, maybe even defeated. There was the Chaldeans, notably the Babylonian kingdom and empire and so on, that were the ones the Assyrians took Israel, which was what the northern 10 tribes were called. The Chaldeans, the Babylonians took the 2 or 3 tribes south, which involved Judah, Jerusalem, and the temple, razed it to the ground, and forcibly carried away a lot of the people there into captivity to be slaves over, in Babylonia, and which included the city of Babylon, whatever. I mean, we have about the Greeks and so on who came and who, there was a revolt against them. They renamed, a lot of the renaming of the place was done by the Greeks and so on, where they renamed it into provinces called Perea, Sabbatia, Judea, Samaria, Galilee, Idumea, and whatever it was. It was a hostile and antagonistic relationship. I don't think the Greeks really enslaved them, whatever, but it was clear that at the end of the day, they imposed their will and their power on the place. What was the other one again? Rome. I mean, we know the story of Rome. The narrative is quite clear in the Bible about, in the time of Jesus, Rome was ruling, etc. And I mean, it was a really direct, harsh, and the Romans didn't play around, if anybody, I mean, they were people, you rebel against them and you would pay a heavy price and so on. I mean, so there was Rome, direct rule by Rome, the governor Pontius Pilate, a Roman appointed king who was a convert to Judaism called Herod the Great, and all these sorts of things. We know the story about them. After Rome, the next empire that we think came along was the British Empire. I'm not surprised to know Jews were more than once expelled from Britain, or at least England at the time, more than once. There was a period of expulsion that lasted for about 300 and something years, where all Jews were kicked out, for various reasons. The money lending thing, which is why so many Jews are involved in control of the global banking system. It's a long story, a whole lot of different things. But Jews have had a rocky time in England and in Europe, being expelled for various reasons and being subjugated and discriminated against and that sort of thing. Of these ancient empires, there's only one, it seems, that did not have an antagonistic and subjugating and enslaving relationship with Jews and Israel and so on, in terms of deporting them, expelling them, enslaving them, annexing them and so on. And that empire was the Persian Empire. They came in, they fought against the Chaldeans, the Babylonians and so on, and eventually defeated them. They beat them about 600 years or whatever before Christ. Don't quote me on the timelines and so on. At a time when the Jews were in captivity, in slavery, having been carried away by the Babylonians, when they finally destroyed Judea and the temple, ransacked it, burnt it to the ground and so on, the whole theme of by the rivers of Babylon and so on. A joint empire, just like you'd say Britain and America, the Anglo-American empire, if you consider it to be that. There was a joint empire called the Medes and the Persians, Medo-Persia or something like that. And it was during the time after they defeated Babylon, they attacked them and they defeated them, that the Persians decided that they were going to emancipate the Jews who had been captive. They let them go. They told them, go back to Palestine. I don't know if it was called that at the time. I doubt it. That's about 2,700 years ago, almost 3,000 years ago, you know. Go back to your country. Go back to the land of Israel. Go back to Judea. Go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the place. Reestablish yourselves there. Rebuild the temple. We are going to give you money to help you. Our timber, which whether it was timber in Persia itself or the whole land, because it's under their control now. You can take as much timber. They wrote to the governor of the provinces and said, give them whatever they need, stone, wood, whatever, so that they can rebuild their temple and their city and Jerusalem and whatever and reestablish. The point I'm making, folks, if there were about 6 or 7 of those ancient world powers, kingdoms, empires, it seemed that the kingdom of Persia, which is modern-day Iran, is the only one that took a benevolent attitude towards the Jews and towards Israel and so on. The only one that did not come to crush them for revolting and raze everything they had to the ground and burn and pillage and enslave them and carry them away of it. Persia seems to have been the only one of those ancient kingdoms and world powers, at least of the time, who rather than having this destructive approach to whatever status the Jews felt, the exceptionalism, whatever, actually said to them, we are going to give you money. We are going to give you gold. We are going to set you free. Go back and establish your Jerusalem and your temple that you speak about so fondly and whatever and so on. You know what happened? Life was so sweet in Persia for the Jews because of the benevolence that the Persians showed them, that a lot of them stayed back in Persia. They didn't bother to go back to the so-called promised land because life was sweet. They were being treated well. They were being treated almost like a royalty displaced in their own land. And down through the centuries, one of the largest areas where Jews settled, the largest diaspora of Jews, was in Persia, from ancient times down to the present day. I said I think this changed after 1979, when they had that Islamic revolution that overthrew the Shah. The Shah also normalized relations with Israel and whatever it was and so on. It was the Khomeini radicals and whatever who came. And because of what Israel had done in the 6-Day War and taken Palestinian lands and whatever it was, that the Iranian revolution and people said that, those Zionists, they want to see the end and the back of them. But the point is that of all those Middle Eastern countries, the place where Jews grew into the largest community or diaspora, whatever you want to call them, was in Persia. They had a good life there. They were treated as equals. And Jews, given their pension for business and for banking and so on, they made it there. And I suppose Persia being a place where they discovered oil and so on, I can well imagine that maybe a lot of Jewish people, because of their pension for business and so on, that they may have invested, they may have begun to work money. I don't know how it worked after nationalization, etc., etc. The most plentiful, just like I told you some time ago, Ramaphosa has to be, what's his name? Is it Ramaphosa? Yes, the president of South Africa has to be very careful with all this thing taking Israel to ICJ and so on, because the largest Jewish diaspora in the whole of the African continent is concentrated in South Africa. And I believe these ones are a lot more Zionistic in their outlook than those in Persia were. The Jews of Persia regarded Persia as their country. They were not too inclined to wanting to see its overthrow and to hating it because they support the homeland of Israel, whatever. They were not of a Zionistic point of view. They were more nationalistic. They regarded, and Iran has benefited from that, Saddam Hussein, the same 1979, when the Islamic Revolution took place, decided he's going to invade Iran. And part of the calculus that backfired on him, which is why America had to go to his help, because America had its beef with Iran over the overthrow of the Shah. Saddam Hussein was banking on that in Western Iran, there is a huge population of Sunni Muslims. Iran is the place where Shia Islam started. And that those Sunni, once he invaded, that those Sunni Muslims would rise up against their country and side with him, because, he's a Sunni and this kind of thing, and because he's sending troops there, they'll see them as liberators. A lot of people have made that kind of mistake, thinking that the people of a country will welcome them as liberators because of ethnic differences with their government or the main part. And one of the shocking things that Saddam Hussein faced was when he sent his forces into Iran attacking from the west, the Sunni Islam, Sunni Muslims in Iran rose up in spirited and passionate defense of their country. They fought against Iraq with everything that they had in the defense of their country, Iran. That shocked him. Never thought that would happen. They fought alongside Shias because they don't believe that because people are religiously inspired, that they can also have a strong patriotic sense to them. And I believe a lot of the Jews, especially before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, they were very passionately patriotic Iranians. It don't matter that we are Jews. It don't matter that we have a synagogue and we have mosque. You mess around with Iran, our country, you mess around with us. Like I said, I don't know how the treatment under the Islamists since 1979 has been, but there is still a sizable diaspora inside there. It is really ironic, and that's why we must not talk about all this ancient thing that those American religious right and televangelists and people are thinking is always something about, and King David. These things are very ancient, People's views change, the politics change, the ethnicities, they undergo transformations. But it's ironic that today Israel is bombing Iran so mercilessly to the point that they're destroying a Jewish synagogue. Now, it may be a genuine accident. They said it's collateral damage, whatever. But might it be that Israel, under Netanyahu, especially these kinds of people, they do not particularly like the Jews who have stayed behind in Iran? Because those Jews do not have, for the most part, and I've met many non-Zionistic Jews, by the way, they are Jews, whatever they would like to see, but they ain't on this thing about establishing state of Israel and wanting to take other people's lands. And a lot of them have told me they have left Israel to live elsewhere because they can understand this is the homeland, this is the promised land, but they have to live in such tight security. To go on a bus in Israel, you have to produce your ID card and you have to be screened sometimes to be searched because of the fear, that some Palestinian might be looking like a Jew and they might, blow up something on the bus. They said it's just too absolutely stifling for them. But it won't surprise me if a sizable number of the Jews in Iran, they remain patriotic Iranians. Yes, we're Jews. Yes, we have synagogue. But this is our country, Iran, because of the strong historical ties that have been established for almost 3,000 years inside there. And if Iran has played its cards well and not persecuted them to make them yearn for another home, whatever and so on, I suspect there may be people who can make some kind of difference in the way things are shaping up. Whichever way it is, I am opposed to people being killed. The wanton way they are being killed because of their country where they are in, where the bombs are raining down on them and they're being murdered like they're non-human beings and nothing is being spoken about. The way they are being slaughtered and butchered, the kind of atrocities and brutality that is being committed there. And for the hypocrisy to be only about the Strait of Hormuz and this and the economy and that sort of thing, as if the Iranian people are not a people. You can just, and not just the Iranians, Palestinians, wherever they are, to be doing this kinds of thing to people, it cannot be more wrong than that. And those who are supporting it in America and outside America, something gotta be said about that, if not done. Because you see right now, people feeling so powerful, they go in and cuss off the Pope. They go in and do all those kinds of things, because they're feeling powerful. What next will happen? Kamla Prasad Bisesa, you better beware and be careful. And no love in this world, the way you seem to think that you got that love coming. Let's take the commercial break, even if it's 2 minutes earlier. And then when we come back, we'll open the lines for the calls and the messages.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Life moves fast. To keep up, you need more than just energy. You need vitality. Introducing McDowell's Damiana, a celebrated botanical secret crafted for all genders, now captured in a single daily capsule. For women, it's great for hormone balance and reproductive health. For men, it's the traditional secret to peak vitality and stamina. With 300 milligrams of pure Damiana extract, it's designed for both men and women to support balance, mood, and natural spark. Reclaim your flow with McDowell's Damiana. Unlock the best version of you. Available at Health Service Center on the John Compton Highway and all pharmacies. You can also order online on McDowellsProducts.com.
Hello, all realists. Thank you for listening to Real FM. If you'd like to call our studio, here is the number. Call the direct line on 4533911, or you can WhatsApp call on 4879849. Call to participate, win prizes, request music, and interact with our announcers and DJs. Real FM, the People's Station.
Rediscover your rhythm. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Morning walks, time with loved ones, and moving freely without constant discomfort. But when joint and muscle pains slow you down, even the simple moments can feel like a challenge. That's where McDowell's Pain Complex comes in. Formulated to support joint comfort and mobility, McDowell's Pain Complex helps you get back to the life you love, step by step, day by day. Move easier, feel better, live fully. McDowellsProducts.com. McDowell's Pain Complex. Rediscover your rhythm. Now available at all leading pharmacies and at Health Service Center upstairs the Napa Building on the John Compton Highway.
Super Jazz and Arts, that's the best community jazz event in St. Lucia.
You heard it. Now come to Sufred Jazz and Arts, the ultimate experience. Gramps Morgan. Voice. Montiel. DYB, Offer Alain, Ezra the Fun Machine, Imran Nerdy, Reese's Orchestra, Boo Hinkson and the True Tones. Now on a Saturday, May 2nd, doors open from 3 p.m. Get your tickets at $150 or indulge in the ultimate VIP Village experience for $400. Purchase at FourCircleTickets.com, the sale outlets island-wide, and the Sufre Foundation office. 9 incredible artists, 1 unforgettable night. And also join us for DJ Asuf Creole Breakfast Fest Sunday, May 3rd. Admission free. The ultimate weekend in the ultimate location. Sufre Jazz. The ultimate experience.
Stop letting your night be defined by trips to the bathroom. Waking up 3 or 4 times a night isn't just getting older, it's a wake-up call. Reclaim your flow and your freedom with McDowell Prostate Health. Specially formulated for men over 40, our premium herbal formula targets weak flow and frequent interruptions before they sideline your life. Don't just manage the symptoms, stay ahead of them. Get back the confidence of a full night's sleep and the strength of a healthy flow. Feel like yourself again. Pick up McDowell's Prostate Health at Health Services Center, pharmacies, or order online at McDowellProducts.com.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
The Real Issues is on now, and we're going until 2 o'clock when the lotto will cut in automatically. So make the most and the best of it. The telephone lines on which you can reach us are 758-287, no, that should be 487-9849. So the WhatsApp line that you can call us on, your WhatsApp, call us on 487-9849. And you can also reach us on the landline, which is 4533911, and I'm seeing a call coming in straight away. Real Issues, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Daniel.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. When it comes to war, there are rules that regulate war, internationally recognized rules, where you must be able to differentiate between enemy combatants and civilians. But when you have a man that's a defense secretary of the world's most powerful army saying that they are not bound by rules of engagement, which mean anything goes. And also his leader, President Donald Trump, said that he is not bothered by international law. It is so-called morality that is what restrains him. What they did in the south of Iran, and that's an area called Hormuzgan. It is located just by the Straits of Hormuz. And the majority of the black Iranians, that is where they are located. And these people, they came there 1,000 years before the transatlantic slave trade, during the Persian East African slave trade. And 164 students were killed.
Okay.
And 14 teachers. And the Americans tried to lie about it. They said it was Iran that did it, but their own investigation, CIA investigation, proves that it was a Tomahawk cruise missiles from the Americans. So what is being practiced there is not democracy. It's open criminality in support of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yep.
And the so-called Christians that believe that these people are the Israel of the Bible, they are deceiving themselves.
Yep.
Because Benjamin Netanyahu is a wanted war criminal.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Hi, Shelton. The illegitimate dumping of garbage extends to vacant lots in Bonte. Some persons are dumping construction waste, old pipes and toilets, used furniture, and even dead animals. It is disgusting. Nasty people. I hope solid waste can do something about this. I hope so too. I've seen it, some places you pass and you initially are admiring them because they're supposed to be, especially Bonte, the upscaleness about it where the housing is concerned. But then you look and you see some nice trees and greenery in your place, and you're happy that they're finding the balance between, development between concrete and steel and grassy areas, whether the lawns and the horticultural plants, the flowers and the natural trees that they have left in some places or that are still there before houses. You love that kind of mix, and then you look and you see some area where it's just so out of place. It's just so incompatible and incongruous with the landscape and everything. You just see, Zodi, garbage, all galvanized and this and sheetrock and I suppose excess plaster and whatever that they just dump it. It just looks so unsightly, and I wonder why would anyone even want to do that, even to think of doing it. You just look at it and it looks out of place. So I understand what you're saying. Before I forget, folks, I will not be in tomorrow, so there'll be no program tomorrow unless Nigel wants to do the real issues. He laughs that off cleanly. I'll be serving as a temporary senator tomorrow. It's been a while. I have not. In fact, I kind of think for the whole of last year, I didn't I didn't get called up to be a temp and so on, so it means that every senator was really on song right down to the last. So I will be a temporary senator in the House of Parliament tomorrow. So I will not be available to do the program, but it's just for one day. And on Thursday, my guest will be a gentleman who's running for the president. We have a call coming on the WhatsApp line. A gentleman, Nixon Barry, is going to be my guest. So he'll be talking about his bid to be president of the CSA. And then on Friday, I'll be having more guests on the whole union matter. The current president of the CSA, Tekla Goodman, and Cleopatra Anthony are going to be my guests on Friday, okay? So, Nigel, I'm letting you know early enough. And if I have to put it in writing, if you need a letter for that, you'll let me know, okay? But we have a caller on the WhatsApp line. The Real Issues, you're on the air. Go ahead. Hello? Do we have a problem with the, maybe? Hey, caller, are you there? I see Jaquan doing some things with this and this. I don't know what it is that he...
Is there?
Huh?
It's on.
Hi, caller, are you there? Are you there, caller? All right. Sometimes he uses a headphone or whatever, I don't know. But caller, I'm sorry, we're just not hearing you. Are you there? All right, okay, we'll have to let that one go. It's possible that it's not the only one. What's the number? Were you able to get the number? Huh? No, were you able to get the number? Maybe I can call the person on my phone, and I had to turn people away when because Parliament is on today, so a lot of our listeners would probably be listening to the Parliament. Yeah, okay. Hi, this is the Real Issues. Were you trying to call us just now?
I am the one.
What's that?
I am the one.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Is that folks?
Yeah, what I would like to say, concerning what you read there about the Israelites and how the tribulation they went through. The Bible is saying different from that. Because Solomon was a king of the Jews. And Solomon said he's black and family. But I'm not seeing none of them people like the color of Solomon. Even in the book of Revelation, that they say they are Jews, but they are taking of Satan. So this is why you see it in the way. Because them people, they are synagogues of Satan. Imposters, Rome planted them there so many thousand years ago. Them European Jews. And they are the ones that is causing all that chaos in the motherland. Pretending to be Israel is the Holy Land. That is why in Revelation 21, it also said that the Almighty is going to do a new Jerusalem because he found fault if the old Jerusalem. So how them people could be the Holy Land when the Bible says he'll find himself a new Jerusalem.
Yeah. I guess people like Netanyahu, they don't care about biblicalism and all this.
Yeah. But you find Christianity want to really push forward for them people. For them fellas are holy criminals.
What concerns me most is the deception to which many Christians seem to have fallen, or under which they seem to have fallen. That for some reason, this is the Israel of the Bible, and in the way that they must show that they are on God's side is to show that they're on Israel's side and to give them all the money they need, all the weaponry they need, all the support that they need, and so on. And this is what I find to be the tragic thing. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I did read that part in Revelation, that it was, one of the letters to the churches which said about the synagogue of Satan, which comprises those who say they are Jews, but they are not. I did read that part. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay, Real Issues, we're still taking your calls. I see someone on the landline. You're on the air, my friend. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Shelton.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Good afternoon, Nigel.
Good afternoon.
Nice. Shelton, based on your preamble and even what you just mentioned there a while ago, isn't it safe to agree that most of the wars and especially country-to-country conflict
throughout the history of humanity has been as a result of religious belief?
I don't know that for a fact. I know. Yes, a lot of them have been, but I don't know that for a fact.
Shelton, I think it. I mean, not to discredit or discount religion and spirituality and religion, but if you really look around it, the themes and the justification, about the Jews being God's chosen people, and I mean, like you mentioned yesterday, it's something to think that the Holocaust only happened for a period, let's say about a decade, prior to World War II, till the end of World War II. Yet you see the compensation being given to the Jews.
And they don't want to give anything to black people, to the Haitians and the people.
The very mention of emancipation and reparation.
Yeah.
They turn their noses up. Even down here, we had a prime minister who didn't dare entertain reparations or emancipation.
Yes.
But I on that note, Shelton, I think it is really time. I know we had a CARICOM commission on reparations. We did all this. But I think we need to be really need to ramp the pressure up. We need to demand things like debt forgiveness, because right now we're paying millions, tens and hundreds of millions to those European countries per year by way of loans. Yes, we do get grants, but then at the end of the day, how much development have we seen as a result of that? And how much of our development has been retarded to the fact that we've been having to pay back so much interest on those loans, where these funds could be diverted to other meaningful forms of development.
Yes.
I think debt forgiveness is a way to start. I'm not sure where the CARICOM Commission is at right now for reparations, but we need to ramp up the pressure, because, at the end of the day, we are being affected by everything that happens on the global scale by those countries, whether it be through their wars, it causes the energy crisis, and at the end of the day, we're the ones suffering. And we still go back to the cycle. We go back to them to meet our development needs through loan or grant. So we as a people, as a region, calling on the CARICOM Reparations Commission, the own reparations commissions down here, and in the separate CARICOM countries, let's try to get this done. Let's put a mandate. I'm sure there's a way we can hold them to ransom. I'm sure there is. We can say, okay, they have so many resources, there's so much we can do, but there is a way we can demand reparations, where they feel it and then they decide that, okay, it's time that all the descendants of the enslaved black people, the transatlantic slave trade, be compensated for the atrocities inflicted upon them. Thank you very much, man.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right. Yeah, we continue taking your calls. We just had this one on the landline. Let's see if we get another call there. I see the light flashing. Real Issues, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Mr. Sheldon.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm going to give you some information because you sound receptive. You're along the same lines of thought.
Speak up. Speak more clearly. Speak more clearly. I'm hearing you muffled.
I'm going to give you some information. Because you seem to be more open ahead of a lot of other people. The people who told about the false Jews also find in Revelation chapter 2 verse 9. Also another part of clue of who the Jews are. Are you with me?
If I were hearing you more clearly, I don't know. For some reason you were...
I'm saying, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Go ahead. What you said about who the Jews are?
Another clue of who the Jews are. In Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 68, tells you that they shall be taken into a new Egypt by the way of ships. And that is no other than the transatlantic slave trade.
Okay.
It's a biblical reading. Read it in Deuteronomy. And Revelation chapter 2 verse 9 tell you, the real Jews telling you, and God telling you, I know of thy poverty and of thy suffering, O my people, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of those who say that they are Jews, but they are the synagogues of Satan. Africa, the Jews, the real Jews, the uranium, the Jew for Jewel. We people voted our country now, right to our own minerals for self-development. We are the ones. And taken into the diaspora around the world. In Deuteronomy 28:16, they shall be taken into New Egypt, which is the West. A Greek word, Egypt, in bondage. And we are now fighting for our reparations. That is the real Jews. We as black people are the real Jews. And take it from me. And our reparation is justified. A lot of people wish they had that struggle. So, but don't worry. You're on the right track, man. And one thing, Egypt is a Greek word. The original land of that place called Egypt. Egypt didn't enslave anybody. going up. The Bible, the European Bible, the King James Version, teaches the story wrong. Egypt was enslaved by the... Check Egypt today, the Arabs controlling Egypt. Black Egypt were enslaved by the Europeans, the Hyksos, the ancestors of the Kokokoswe. Before Egypt was called Egypt, it was called Kemet or Samaria. Samaria is Egypt. Okay, so when it says the Good Samaritan is a black man helping a European false Jew along the way, and where the whole Jews didn't help them, false Jews. Okay, so we are the black Jews, brother. I'll talk to you more. Bless you.
All right, then. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Real Issues. We continue taking your calls until 2 o'clock. So you can call us either on the WhatsApp line, which is 487-9849, and on the landline, which is 4533-911. You know, this whole equating of like Trump setting out some framework agreement between Israel and the Arabs called the Abraham Accords, because you know both the Arabs and the people of Israel came from one source that was Abraham, different sons and all of that. And I'm just wondering if it is the common Abrahamic origin of Jews and Arabs, why is it that the Jews have appropriated this anti-Semitic thing? It's like the whole identity of a Semite is a Jew. So you criticize Israel, you're anti-Semitic. Well, if I'm anti-Semitic, I'm also anti-Arab. I should not be critical of Saudi Arabia or Oman or Qatar, because they're all Arabs, So, but Israel has taken all of that. And if you look at the careful reading of the Bible that they want to misuse, there was a constant eschewing of excessive and unnecessary violence. Before Israel was a nation, Israel was a man. That's what we're reading in the Bible, that the nation of Israel is named after a man who was initially called Jacob, but it tells you the story how God changed his name to Israel. Okay? And there was an incident where Jacob's sons went and killed all the men in a particular village because one of the men had sex with their sister without being married to him. He apparently was attracted to her and, according to his customs, and later on he asked to marry her, and they told her, no, we can't marry her because you are uncircumcised. And the only way we can let you have our sister, you have to agree to be circumcised. And when you circumcise, that means you have converted and you have become one of us. Well, what they did when the men were circumcised and they can only lie on their back or on their side because, they saw and they're in pain, whatever. They went in the village and they visited all the men, like we are future brothers-in-law. And they killed all of them, killed every single man in the village. The father Jacob, when he heard about that, he was grieved. He said, fellas, what are you all doing? Right now there'll be war always between me and those neighbors. They won't want to see anything of us. And listen to what Jacob has to say according to, is it Genesis 39 and so on. I mean, the man is obviously upset about what his sons did with this excessive violence. And here's what he says. He says about them, it's almost like he's cursing them. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of cruelty are in their dwelling place. Let not my soul enter their council. Let not my honor be united to their assembly. For in their anger they slew men, and in their self-will they hamstrung bulls. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their anger, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Now, this is the father, the man from whom the name Israel comes. He is actually lamenting the violence of his sons. That even if this thing had gone, for them to go in a village and kill everybody, is like, let not my name, I don't want this fella's name to be associated with me. And you know what he did in setting out the territory of the tribes? He gave no territory to the tribe of Levi. They became the priestly tribe, so they were like the itinerant tribe, divided among all the other tribes. You had to make provision for them, but they didn't have a tribe of their own in terms of a geographic area. And dividing them in Judah, which is said of Simeon, he made Simeon like what Lesotho is in South Africa. It was a tribe that did not have its own distinct borders with other tribes, but it was landlocked inside Judah. It was a subdivision, of Judah and so on. He never, he's so upset at them many years after, he's calling them together to tell them what his will is. And these two fellas, he's practically cursing them for violence. Look at Netanyahu. Netanyahu don't want to negotiate anything, He don't want to negotiate. Netanyahu thinks whatever issues he has with Palestinians, whatever, is to kill his way out of it. Is to kill as many people. Is to bomb. There's supposed to be a ceasefire, of course, between Gaza and Israel, whatever and so on. I mean, Netanyahu sending planes and bombed every day. He killing endless Palestinians under a ceasefire. That's why I tell you, I believe Iran is going to be defeated, because they seem every time Trump says a ceasefire, they fall for it. They get their butts kicked all over. When they exhaust their missiles, whatever and so on, they say, okay, let's a ceasefire again, and they kick Iran's butt again. Well, Iran seems to have a little soft spot, you know, for this being played all the time, and they get in it. But the patriarch, and I wonder what kind of Christianity is being taught to people in the world. That before Israel was a nation, Israel was a man. The basic Christian theology is that after Israel ceased to be a nation, Israel is a man forever. That is why Jesus Christ, and we're just after Easter, folks, we should know those things. That is why Jesus Christ chose 12 apostles. Just like Jacob, Israel had 2 sons, Jesus Christ, the new and everlasting Israel of God, had 12 apostles. Each of the 12 represented one of the sons of Jacob, represented the tribe. So when you have Matthew, when you have John, when you have Peter, Paul, Andrew, James, these all represent one of the tribes. So Israel, Jesus Christ is the new, final, and permanent Israel of God, just as Jacob was the starting, foundational Israel, which led to a nation. Now it has led to a movement that has covered the entire earth, etc., etc. But I don't know. There seems to be something wrong with the Christianity that's being taught, you know, especially in America. That the people can go and support people to do that. How you could go and talk to a Palestinian now? How you could go and talk to a Saudi now? They don't want to hear anything about you. This is a craziness that's going on there. Netanyahu does not want to negotiate with Palestinians or Hamas because they're terrorists. He can't negotiate. I mean, Lebanon is a nation just north of you. Why don't you offer Lebanon the support so that they can help to disarm Hezbollah if Hezbollah has become so powerful, it's become a force and so on? Is kill alone the fellow want to kill? Kill. How long? Now, what it means is that this project, this Zionistic project called Israel, it's unsustainable. It can only be sustained by continuous, endless, extreme violence, ruthlessness, murder. You're going to murder the whole world because it seems like it's kill alone you can kill for you to survive. Kill. When was the last time you heard Israel having any kind of discussion or negotiation with any of the Palestinian groups and so on? It used to happen before. Under previous leaders, they had the 2-state solution that they came about. They had negotiations between what Israel considered one of the worst terrorists, Yasser Arafat, yet between he and what was the guy's name at the time, Yitzhak Shamir. They negotiated, they arrived at a 2-state solution where they could coexist and so on. It was not perfect. But they had that 2-state from Netanyahu once there, and no negotiation, no talk, no 2-state solution. It's just kill. Wipe out. And Americans, including those who call themselves Christians, you know, Americans, including those who call themselves Christians, they're the ones funding that, they're the ones supporting that. I mean, someday something have to happen to you all. You know, I am within you all, is not my fight, is not my game, but something have to happen to you all. You know, I mean, wow, this is really a killing thing. And it's Netanyahu, basically, as people believe, you know. I mean, even King David, the great warrior, they like to invoke his name. He had 2 nephews who were on this murder thing and killing, you know, wantonly. And David looked at one of them, I think the eldest, and he said, may there never cease to be in the house of Joab someone who is afflicted with an issue of blood. In other words, through the generations of his nephew Joab, in that bloodline, there will always be somebody with a bleeding disorder. Now, I can't tell you what form the bleeding disorder, but that's a terrible curse to come from a king. And it is being pronounced on his own nephew, who was the commander of his thing, that the guy is just too wantonly murderous. Everything for Joab was a killing. And when I look at Netanyahu, I say, wow, if King David were alive, and he had to pronounce a curse to me on Benjamin Netanyahu, that they would have to have a bleeding disorder on this fella. This fella is kill. You know, kill. 1,500 Israelis killed. You know, the man kills 80,000 Palestinians, you know, and still counting. He don't give a damn about it. Folks, we're very blessed, you know. We're very blessed in this Caribbean, at least for now. Let us try to hold together what we have And I will again say, as I intend to have trade unionists on the program later in the week, do not destroy things we have that we can leverage to a better life for ourselves, such as trade union representation and activities. There might be people who you might not think they involve, but they're playing the divide and rule game, not because they like this side more than the other side, but if they can torpedo the trade union movement and what they know it can achieve for St. Lucia and St. Lucians, just because it may offer or present the promise of a feather in the cap for Philip JP or whatever, they will come and divide it and destroy it from within, pitting one against the other, so that the way can be cleared for them to burn down the city if they have to, or the whole kingdom, so they can emerge as king of the ashes. Watch out for those people. Don't let this kind of things entrap us. Real issues. Thank you so much for listening. See you on Thursday.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff.